With the announcement of the next entry in the Legends game revolving around Gen 6 and the reintroductions of Megas into the game, I thought it'd be a good chance to see how much power creeping has happened since Gen 6. And that's why today we will be going back in time to Gen 6. Back when I was still taking my GCSE O-levels and times were a lot different compared to now. I will be discussing all the bans that Smogon OU has done in Gen 6 in a chronological order and wonder if these ban threats will be impactful in the new Gen 9 environment with Megas-Abound. Before we begin, this took a lot of effort to research and review, and I am just a one-man show after all, so if you guys like such content as well as more Nintendo videos where you can decide what kind of content I put out, please click the subscribe button. Actually, it's here. Please click the subscribe button below to support me and what I love to do. Thank you guys so much, and let's get back to the video. About a month after Pokemon XY's release on November 2nd, 2013, the official XY-OU banlist was announced. Typically, this banlist would include things like cover legendaries as well as overpowered Pokemon that would destroy OU single-handedly. The initial banlist for XY included all Arceus forms, Darkrai, Deoxys Attack, Dialga, Giratina Origin, Groudon, Ho-Oh, Kyogre, Kyurem White, Lugia, Mewtwo, Palkia, Rayquaza, Reshiram, Shaymin Sky, Xerneas, Yveltal, and Zekrom. All of the prior listed had a BST of 670 or more, with the exception of Darkrai, Deoxys Attack, and Shaymin Sky, which all sit at extremely high speed tiers, while also having extremely versatile and powerful movesets. It is also instrumental to remember that during Gen 6, Mega Evolution didn't alter the speed tier of the Pokemon until the next turn, which means that if Metagross Mega evolved, it still wouldn't outspeed a Garchomp until the next turn. Shortly after the initial ban list was released, the OU Council decided to quick ban some additional threats that honestly should have been banned alongside the initial threats. On November 12, 2013, 3 Pokemon were quick banned less than 2 weeks after the initial ban list was announced. The first two were both regular Blaziken and its Mega counterpart. Blaziken's Dream World ability Speed Boost has been a menace since its introduction in Gen 5, which resulted in its first ban. In early XY meta, Blaziken was even more of a threat as Infinite Rain via Drizzle was nerfed to 5 turns, and XY introduced top tier threats like Aegislash and Klefki, who were really under the mercy of Blaziken even before a boost. Getting the speed boost with Blaziken is extremely easy as well. You can bring it in freely and protect, sub, or threaten our popular metagame threat options like Scizor, Tyranitar, or Ferrothorn, and even Aegislash in the current metagame can't even OHKO Blaziken, giving it opportunities to set up Swords Dance and take out a large portion of the opponent's team. On top of that, after one turn of Speed Boost, you reach 426 speed, which outspeeds high-speed threats like Greninja or Gengar, allowing you to set up either a Swords Dance or kill the threats directly. Blaziken's counters and checks included mons like Slowbro, Azumarill, and Talonflame, but Slowbro was a shaky check at best, since mixed Blazikens could deal with Slowbro, while the ubiquity of Azumarill and Talonflame in the metagame made OU very stale. And as a result, Blaziken and Mega Blaziken were quick banned. The second mon that got quick banned on this day was Deoxys-N. Deoxys-N was a lot more cut and dry because it's really way too powerful for OU. It has a deep and varied move pool with Psycho Boost, Super Power, Fire Punch, Knockoff, Extreme Speed, Ice Beam, Taunt, Stealth Rocks, and the list goes on. It can effectively run a Suicide lead set which minimally sets up one layer of rocks and spikes while being able to deter hazard setters with taunt or super effective moves, or it can run Expert Belt to fake the choice item, or even run Life Orb to push for an all-out attacking set. Its incredible offensive stats make it almost impossible to outspeed, requiring you to exclusively rely on priority and hazards. But honestly speaking, it was really able to deal with any priority users due to the access to extreme speed, making Scizor the only real way to deal with Deoxys-N. I mean, why wouldn't it get banned if it was that broken, right? What truly broke Mega Gengar wasn't just its heinous offensive stats of 170 special attack and 130 speed. After all, fast Megas like Alakazam and Aerodactyl existed with a lot more speed and firepower. It was because, as crazy as it sounds, it was the best support mon a team could use since it was extremely good at removing threats. Why is that so? With Mega Evolution, Mega Gengar gained the ability Shadow Tag while losing Levitate in the process, and that gives a lot of teams full capabilities to select threats, trap them in, and remove them. Its access to Shadow Ball and Focus Blast allows it to fully cover the entire metagame, and Sludge Bomb allowed it to clean up on fairy types. On top of that, it had access to key utility moves like Will-O-Wisp, Taunt, and most notably Destiny Bond and Perish Song. Perish Trapping as a single strategy has always been very gimmicky at best, but Mega Gengar was able to perform this role to utter perfection due to its high speed and access to Hypnosis, allowing Mega Gengar players to easily remove the threats that it wants to. On top of that, it can use Destiny Bond in a last-ditch effort and still remove the mon. Mega Gengar can also be customized to act as a curated remover, as it has so much coverage moves, further increasing its effectiveness as a support mon, with Mega Gengar being able to provide not only heavy firepower but also high level support in effectively removing threats. It was way too good as a support mon and thus was quick banned. A new signature ability for Mega Kangaskhan was introduced in Gen 6 known as Parental Bond. It allowed for every attacking move to become a 2-hit multi-strike move, and alongside with the newly introduced Power Up Punch, you can easily see where this is going. Power Up Punch combined with Parental Bond gave Mega Kangaskhan a free untauntable Swords Dance, allowing it to easily clean up a large proportion of the OU metagame. Even premier physical walls like Hoopa-Unbound, Skarmory, and Slowbro couldn't really take it on. Mega Kangaskhan's access to priority in Sucker Punch and powerful coverage in the form of Fire Punch, Crunch, and Earthquake meant that outside of mons like Ferrothorn with Rocky Helmet and Sableye, nothing really could deal with Mega Kangaskhan. Crazy enough, that's not all that Mega Kangaskhan could do. Its access to base 105 HP meant that it could create substitutes that were unbreakable by Seismic Toss, which allowed it to pass powerful heals to its party, and Seismic Toss was able to chunk off a hefty 200 HP to its opponent guaranteed. Yes, 200 HP because for some reason, Parental Bond's second hit of Seismic Toss wasn't reduced by 50%. With all these factors in play, Mega Kangaskhan was the last mon to be quick banned in XYOU. About a month after the initial wave of quick bans, 3 more Pokemon were added to the chopping block, but this time, it's a community suspect test. Mega Lucario, Genesect, and Deoxys-S were chosen as the suspect for the first XYOU suspect test. Banned with an overwhelming 94% supermajority votes, Mega Lucario was an overwhelming threat that centralized the metagame in a completely insane way. First of all, it had access to really useful abilities pre-Mega Evolution in the form of Steadfast and Inner Focus, both of which allowed it to benefit from flinching moves. It also had Justify, which allowed it to come in a knockoff and get a free boost because Mega Stone can't be knocked off. Next, it also gets adaptability after Mega Evolution, which makes Lucario's offensive firepower even more insane. However, that is not where Mega Lucario's insanity ends. Its access to both Nasty Plot and Swords Dance, coupled with its beastly offensive stats of 145 attack, 140 special attack, and step priority moves of both type in Extreme Speed, Bullet Punch, and Vacuum Wave makes it an extremely difficult mon to switch in on. What would have normally checked the physical variant of Mega Lucario would definitely not be able to check a special variant of Mega Lucario. And there lies the biggest difficulty of dealing with Mega Lucario. Only Zapdos was a true answer to it, and honestly, I really heaved a sigh of relief when I saw this being suspect tested because I knew it was gonna go. Genesect was not only a really versatile Pokemon, but each of its sets that it ran were able to single-handedly generate a lot of momentum for the user. It was really effective in weakening opposing team structures so that other teammates or Genesect itself can clean up. Genesect's ability download was really incredible as it was able to get a free offensive boost every time he switched in, allowing Genesect to easily force switches out for it to U-turn and gain momentum. Genesect's bread and butter set was the Choice Scarf set, as it was able to act as if it had a Choice Band or Specs along with the Choice Scarf, allowing it to act not only as a revenge killer but also clean up on weakened teams. Its really wide move pool allows Genesect to deal with a large plethora of metagame threats such as Ice Beam to deal with Garchomp and Landorus, Thunderbolt to deal with Azumarill, and the list goes on. Choice Band and Expert Belt sets were also fairly common as they used the guise of Choice Scarf to deal big damage to the switch-ins while still being able to run Flamethrower or Ice Beam to deal with defensive mons like Skarmory or Aegislash. After repeated switch-ins on Genesect, counters like Heatran would be unable to properly counter it as they lack reliable recovery, with each Genesect set effectively requiring dedicated counters and its ability to consistently gain momentum in an environment where base 99 speed was powerful. It was banned with 64% supermajority. During this period of time, with the ubiquity of Mega Lucario and Genesect, HO was the go-to team structure for a majority of the metagame. It was very difficult to pilot, balance, and stall structures to success due to the presence of the two other offending suspects. As a result, a lot of players only explored Deoxys-S as a hazard setter, resulting in only a 37% ban minority. Deoxys-Speed remains legal in OU. For now. The first move to be suspect tested in Gen 6 metagame wasn't some super powerful move like Hidden Power, which gave every mon a form of coverage at the cost of some IVs, but rather it was Swagger. Swag play teams abuse Parafusion. Wait, I think I better explain it more properly. In X and Y, Klefki was released and Thunderous Eye was unbanned. This meant that the metagame had access to two powerful pranksters who were able to abuse both Paralysis by spreading Thunder Wave and Confusion by using Swagger. Swagger was chosen as the confusion-inducing move of choice as it boosted the opposing mon's attack by 2 stages, which paired extremely well with foul play. This allowed the Swag play user to stack RNG against the opponent, which created a toxic environment for all players alike. Swagger as a result has been banned ever since, resulting in the death of such team structures. If Swagger gets unbanned with the release of Legend Z2A, or if they release a more broken form of Swagger, I actually think I might pull all my hair out. A few months after Swagger's ban, Baton Pass was placed under intense scrutiny. Baton Pass is my personal favorite move to use during this era alongside U-Turn because it was a momentum gaining move and expanded the team structure of Volt-Turn, which was extremely popular during this era. However, Baton Pass had the additional benefit of not only switching the user out, but also passing along its stat boost, stat drops, and substitute to the recipient, and therein lied the biggest problem with Baton Pass. This led to players building full Baton Pass chains, with the most dedicated and infamous user being Dennis, who created such a strong Baton Pass chain that the community came together and voted to restrict Baton Pass to 3 or fewer team members. However, that was not the end. User Dennis continued to innovate and create variations of the original Baton Pass chain team, which proved to show that the initial nerf to Baton Pass was clearly not enough. As a result, the OU Council decided that the best way to completely dismantle Baton Pass chain teams while retaining Baton Pass and its benefits was to limit it to one Pokemon instead. However, we will soon learn that Dennis and his big brain will eventually create another variation of Baton Pass chain even with the current restriction in place. Suspect tested early in the generation, Deoxys-S was once again suspect tested because everyone started realizing how crazy of a support it was. The best part of it was that it could easily multitask if it needed to, which resulted in a variety of sets popping up. If it is a lead Sash set with Stealth Rocks, it could still carry Ice Beam and Psycho Boost to act as a revenge killer in the event it needs to act as a Scarfer. If it's an all-out attacking set with Life Orb, it can easily make for a revenge killer without the downside of a choice item. Finally, it is also very easy for it to set up dual screens with much effectiveness, creating a situation where Hyper Offense thrives well over the other team structures. This caused Deoxys-S to be banned to Ubers with a 78% supermajority. Deoxys-D was the first mon in this generation where it was banned simply because of its incredible utility instead of its offensive prowess. Deoxys-D's incredible bulk and access to recover allowed it to remove the risk-reward nature of hazard stacking, as it was able to stay in on bulky team structures and flat out set up in their face. If this sounds familiar, it's because Gliscor was banned in Gen 9 OU due to a similar logic, and I covered the logic in a previous video linked in the description below. Deoxys-D also often carried Magic Code alongside Mental Herb to beat fast taunters and allowed it to beat non-life of Aegislash. Running Superpower plus a few attack EVs lets it OHKO the most common forms of Bishop and start the game 5-5 with hazards, as opposed to 5-6 with hazards. Deoxys-D really eclipsed every other entry hazard setter such as Shuckle, who carried both rocks and webs but was easily taken advantage of due to its lack of move pool and speed, as well as unreliable offensive setters like Landorus-Incarnate and Garchomp, who are able to apply offensive pressure but mandate the use of Focus Sash to do their job. This meant that Deoxys-D, who could single-handedly block taunt and set up hazards incredibly reliably, was the best utility support mon in XYOU. Aegislash is arguably the most controversial Pokemon in the entire Gen 6 metagame. Being the first Steel Ghost type in the entire game and having access to King's Shield, which lowered the opposing mon's attack by 2 stages if struck by a contact move, made it a huge 50-50 machine. Its huge variety of sets like Subtoxic, Specs, Swords Dance, Life Orb, Shadow Blade all-out attacking, the list really goes on. Aegislash is a mon that defined the word over-centralizing. Powerhouses in a tier like Mega Medicham, Mega Gardevoir, Terrakion, Mega Pinsir all had to carry some kind of appropriate coverage move in order to not auto-lose to it. It was so crazy that Starmie, who had been OU for 5 generations prior, dropped to UU solely because Aegislash existed. Its access to Pursuit also made it an excellent Pursuit Trapper since it could easily live a hit or two in the Shield form before Pursuit Trapping with Sword form. The thing with Aegislash isn't that it's centralizing because it provides utility like Thunderousness, it's centralizing because it's just amazingly good at everything. King's Shield allowed Aegislash to dodge the ever-common Scarf Tyranitar Pursuit, making it even more difficult to remove from the field. And thus, Aegislash was banned by the thinnest margin of 62% supermajority. After the ban of Aegislash, a lot of threats started to bubble up from under the surface. Mega Mawile was conceptually one of them. Mega Mawile's speed was thought to be an inherent downfall for Mawile. However, its offensive power due to huge power and priority access in Sucker Punch made it a very relevant threat. However, what really pushed it over the edge was the rise of substitute Focus Punch variants, also known as Sub Punch. Those sets really greatly punished stall and balance teams. It was able to safely 2-hit KO bulky Megazard X, which were commonplace in bulky teams during that era. On top of that, it was able to put in crazy work against offensive team structures thanks to its amazing defensive typing, decent bulk, as well as access to Intimidate. This allowed Mega Mawile to easily find an opening to come in versus offensive teams to not only set up SD, but also set up Substitute with how much switches it forces. There simply wasn't a matchup where Mega Mawile underperforms, and with Aegislash ban, the OU metagame was once again filled with big threats that were weak against a combination of Play Rough and Sucker Punch, greatly reducing the risk-reward nature that usually comes with slow wall breakers like Mega Mawile. As a result, XYOU saw its last ban with a 78% supermajority before moving on to Auras OU. Mega Salamance's base stat was absurdly hardy. It had a bulky 95, 130, 90 defense stat line, and coupled with Intimidate pre-Mega Evolution, it was able to come in on almost every mon in the metagame to set up Dragon Dances to sweep. On top of that, it had access to Aerolate that converted normal type moves to flying type, which was arguably one of the most offensive typing in the game outside of Ice. Mega Salamence also had an incredible move pool that allowed it to run Mix to catch its physical checks off guard. Its access to Wish, Refresh, allowed it to act as a bulky self-sufficient attacker. In fact, its most oppressive set when it was legal was not its hyper-offensive Dragon Dance 3 attacking set, it was the mono-attacking heavily defensive set with Roost, Dragon Dance, Refresh, and Facade, so that it could absorb statuses and remove it if it needs to. The only real way to threaten Mega Mans was via Choice Scarf Greninja, so without a doubt it deserved to be quick banned, never to see the light of OU ever again. Before Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, Greninja was one of the defining threats of the metagame, considered by some to even be broken then thanks to its large move pool, Protean, and amazing speed, which allowed it to threaten offensive teams as it lacked proper switch-ins. With Auras, it gained additional moves in the form of low kick and gunk shot, which allowed it to invalidate checks like AV Azumarill, Clefable, Empoleon, and even Tyranitar. Greninja had such a deep offensive move pool that allowed the user to custom tailor it to plug the holes in the team. For example, if you had problem with Tentacruel, you could run Extrasensory and Greninja wouldn't lose its offensive momentum and prowess. It could even run Spikes to not only set up hazards but also convert into a ground type and block Thunder Wave or Volt Turn. As a result, Greninja was banned with an 82% supermajority. Mega Metagross was an excellent threat with impeccable bulk and offensive stat line accompanied with a varied enough move pool to selectively dismantle threats. Grass Knot, which by the way was boosted by Tough Claws, allowed Metagross to hit physical walls like Slowbro and Hoopa-Unbound. Access to Ice Punch and Clear Body pre-Mega allowed Metagross to push back against common threats like Landorus-Tyrian, while access to Pursuit and Priority in Bullet Punch allowed it to deal with the ever-common Ladi twins. This gen, however, was the introduction of the Steel Nerf where Steel types are neutral to Dark-type moves, and this greatly reduced the defensive capabilities of Metagross. Its checks and counters were commonplace in the metagame like Mew, Spadef Slowbro, Mega Sableye, and so on, and as time went on, the meta adapted more and more towards this behemoth with options like Alomomola and bulky Garchomp becoming more common. As a result, Mega Metagross becomes the first suspect in the ORAS-OU metagame to avoid the ban hammer with a 57% pro-ban simple majority. Landorus-Incarnate is one of those mons that seemingly lost a lot during the transition from permanent to non-permanent weather, as it lost a powerful ability in Sandforce. However, the concentration on Sheer Force has made the community fully realize how insanely powerful the Sheer Force Life Orb set is. For starters, its Step Earth power is very spammable, and a combination of HP Ice and Rock Slide was able to deal with commonplace switch-ins and the majority of the ground immunities. Calm Mind and Sludge Wave also helped it deal with common Spadef fairies, and that's not the end of it. It gets access to Rock Polish and Knockoff to render Chansey weakened, and its ground typing prevents it from being paralyzed, while its specially offensive nature means it's unaffected by burns. With all these factors combined, Landorus-Incarnate is a huge monster to deal with, and it was banned with a 76% supermajority. Baton Pass chains never really died out since it was still a very effective method of cheesing the ladder or brainlessly achieving requirements during suspect tests. Thanks to Dennis's new RMP about it, it has seen so much play that it was started to be used even in a tournament setting. This playstyle often reduces the game state down to being able to RNG a crit, and most of the community felt it was very uncompetitive. As a result, the council decided to further restrict Baton Pass down to a complex state, but of course, with all things Baton Pass related, it doesn't end there. However, that does mark the end of the Baton Pass complex ban era for ORAS-OU. For this particular suspect test, it's important that we address both Shadow Tag and Mega Sableye, as they were both key cornerstones to a very largely popular team known as Golf Stall. Initially, there were many players who were against banning Shadow Tag as a whole, as the primary offender in the current Golf Stall era is Gothitelle, and by extension Gotorita, since it was able to selectively pick and delete wall breakers, in particular Manaphy, making it extremely difficult for teams to break apart Stall. Golf users would simply trick the Scarf onto mons like Manaphy and Heatran and PP stall it before tricking back the Scarf and swapping out, so that it can continue to pick apart threats later. These threats had to forcefully use Shed Shell to prevent getting trapped, and this deprived them of a useful item slot like Leftovers or Life Orb. Combining that with the fact that Manaphy or Heatran user cannot really outskill the Trapper and escape, this made trapping in general very toxic and skillless. Mega Sableye on the other hand was arguably the best support that Golf could ask for in a stall team. It's able to shut down slow hazard stackers like Skarmory or Ferrothorn, and since it can abuse Prankster pre-Mega Evolution, it can easily go for Wisp and threaten bulky offensive setters like Garchomp and Mamoswine. During this period of time, we could see that Mega Sableye was really strong at being a utility mon and supporting stall. But arguably, because of the presence of Hoopa-Unbound as a strong wall breaker and the idea that once Shadow Tag is gone, Mega Sableye becomes much more manageable, brought about the second OU suspect that remained in OU with a 53.5% pro-ban simple majority, whereas Shadow Tag was overwhelmingly banned with an 89% supermajority. Hoopa-Unbound's release into the metagame was an abrupt one to say the least. It was introduced towards the end of ORAS, and it was definitely a force to be reckoned with. Its insane offensive stats and access to a wide variety of moves, including its signature move Hyperspace Fury that bypass Protect and substitute invalidated team. Common switch-ins like Hoopa-Unbound, Mega Scissor, and Assault Vest Tornadus T were unable to truly switch in because of Hoopa's immense offensive power and mixed spreads. However, one of its big flaws is that it is extremely pursuit weak, making it extremely easy to be trapped by common pursuit trappers like Scarf Tyranitar and Weavile, who are both able to outspeed Hoopa-Unbound. On top of that, its 4 times weakness to U-turn meant that it couldn't realistically switch in on any potential U-turners, thus holding it back a little bit. Hoopa's immense power, despite its god-awful speed tier, netted it a ban with one of the narrowest margin in the generation, sitting at a 61% supermajority voting for a ban. At last, we reached the final Pokemon ban of Gen 6 OU. While Mega Sableye was not seen as an overwhelmingly problematic mon on its first suspect, with the metagame mellowing out, Mega Sableye's unhealthy effects on the metagame starts to show. Its ability to shut out stall breakers by negating hazards, status, and taunters that weren't accompanied by Mold Breaker completely upended the dynamic that stall had on the metagame. Prior to Mega Sableye, breaking stall used to be about a wide variety of pressure applications. Whether it be with Taunt Gliscor, Gritting Rocks, pivoting in your Wall Breaker on double switches, or anything of the sort. But with Mega Sableye, the stall matchup becomes very one-sided and predetermined. And as a result, many stall games in this era ends at turn 1 as very specific Pokemons were required for stall breaking. To highlight some examples, classical spikers like Ferrothorn and Skarmory aren't able to properly deal with Mega Sableye. Heatran and Clefable, however, were very good options, but they could easily be trapped by Dugtrio, who was a very common stall option. This meant that a lot of offensive teams had to resort to options like Mold Breaker Excadrill to attempt to set up rocks, and even then, it wasn't a very good option since Dugtrio could easily trap and clean up. As a result, Mega Sableye ended up being banned with 66% supermajority and was the last effective ban of ORAS OU prior to Sun and Moon's release. So, what do you guys think? Let me know in the comment section below which particular Pokemon are you looking forward to returning Legends C2A. Thank you so much for your time and I'll see you guys next time.